Okay, guys, we're moving on in chapter 2 here with Scout's first day of school. So, just in a couple pages into chapter 2, I feel like a new color. So, all right. So we're going to get a glimpse into Scout and Jem's first day at school. We see Jem kind of giving Scout advice. She says, "You mean we can't play anymore?" I asked. "We'll do like we always do at home," he said, "but you'll see, school is different." So Jem is going to be teaching her sort of different rules of behavior at the school. So what's he getting at? Remember, we have a building novel. And we kind of have two people actually that are, that looked really messy, sorry. Two personalities that are being built. There's Jem plus Scout. But Jem is older, right? So he's further on the curve because he's 12 years old. He's ahead of Scout. Scout's 8 or 9. So Jem is more of a young adult and able to see things in the world a bit better. So he's a little ahead of the curve in terms of the building novel component. I don't know, let's try something else. Let's try this highlighter. All right. So, school's going to be different, he says. It certainly was. Before the first morning was over, Miss Caroline Fisher, our teacher, hauled me up into the front of the room and patted the palm of my hand with a ruler, then made me stand in the corner until noon. Miss Caroline was no more than 21. She had bright auburn hair, pink cheeks, and wore crimson fingernail polish. She also wore high-heeled pumps and a red and white striped dress. She looked and smelled like a peppermint drop. She boarded across the street one door down from us in Miss Maudie Atkinson's upstairs front room. And when Miss Maudie introduced us to her, Jem was in a haze for days. Miss Caroline printed her name on the blackboard and said, "This says I am Miss Caroline Fisher. I am from North Alabama, from Winston County." The class murmured apprehensively. Should she prove to harbor her share of the peculiarities indigenous to that region? When Alabama seceded from the Union on January 11, 1861, Winston County seceded from Alabama, and every child in Macomb County knew it. North Alabama was full of liquor interests, big mules, steel companies, Republicans, professors, and other persons of no background. So actually, Miss Caroline is an outsider. She's not from their town. Okay, so she's, whoa, way too thick. All right, back to the pen. I think the pen is the best tool here. All right. Okay, so Miss Caroline is an outsider in the town. And so she's not going to know the customs and the different people groups, and maybe the biases reputation of different people or different families. Etc. So she's not educated in those things in the town. And also the town part of Alabama she was from was against slavery. They went on the other side in the war. And so people in Macomb don't really like that about where she's from. Miss Caroline began the day by reading us a story about cats. The cats had long conversations with one another. They wore cunning little clothes and lived in a warm house beneath a kitchen stove. That time Miss Cat called the drugstore for an order of chocolate malted mice. The class was wriggling like a bucket full of catawba worms. Miss Caroline seemed unaware that the ragged, denim-shirted and flower-skirted first grade, most of whom had chopped cotton and fed hogs from the time they were able to walk, were immune to imaginative literature. Miss Caroline came to the end of the story and said, "Oh my, wasn't that nice?" All right, notice the description of the class. They are ragged, denim-shirted, so wearing like jean shirts, flour sack skirted, so skirts for the girls made out of flour sacks. And what did most of these people do? They chopped cotton and fed hogs from time to time. So we have a poor farming community. So you want to put on your Marxist glasses here and think about in terms of the economic lens. Well, these are very poor kids. They're not educated. They don't read storybooks normally. She's not really aware of that. Then she went to the blackboard and printed the alphabet in enormous square capitals, turned to the class and asked, "Does anybody know what these are?" Everybody did. Most of the first grade had failed it last year. So notice the critique of education here. Most of the first grade had failed last year. I suppose she chose me because she knew my name. As I read the alphabet, a faint line appeared between her eyebrows, and after making me read most of my first reader and the stock market quotations from the mobile register aloud, she discovered I was literate and looked at me with more than faint distaste. Miss Caroline told me to tell my father not to teach me any more. It would interfere with my reading. Teach me? I said in surprise. He hasn't taught me anything, Miss Caroline. Atticus ain't got time to teach me anything, I added, when Miss Caroline smiled and shook her head. Why, he's so tired at night he just sits in the living room and reads. If he didn't teach you, who did? Miss Caroline asked good-naturedly. Somebody did. You weren't born reading the mobile register. Jem says I was. He read in a book where I was a bullfinch instead of a finch. Jem says my name's really Jean Louise Bullfinch, that I got swapped when I was born, and I'm really a... Miss Caroline apparently thought I was lying. Let's not let our imagination run away with us, dear. Now you tell your father not to teach you any more. It's best to begin reading with a fresh mind. You tell him I'll take over from here and try to undo the damage. All right, what's going on here? This whole thing is an ironic satire of the school system, of the teacher. Okay, she sees that Scout knows how to read. She should be happy by that. She should be impressed. Instead, she has faint distaste. More than faint distaste. What's distaste? Like disgust, like she's upset by this. And then she actually discourages learning here, and she also discourages parental help. Not only that, when she saw that Scout knew how to read, she actually tried to make her feel bad by making her read something really difficult, like the stock market quotations from the local newspaper, which is not generally what you're reading in the first grade, and also made her read from this other book, My First Reader. So we can see that there's a critique of education going on here. which is part of the Gothic agenda, the Southern Gothic genre. They are critiquing different areas in society. In this case, the school is getting critiqued. Miss Caroline thought I was lying. Apparently thought I was lying. Let's not let our imaginations run away with us, dear, she said. Now you tell your father not to teach you any more. It's best to begin reading with a fresh mind. You tell him I'll take over from here and try to undo the damage. So now she's insulting her father. Ma'am, your father does not know how to teach. You can have a seat now. I mumbled that I was so sorry and retired, meditating upon my crime. I never deliberately learned to read, but somehow I had been wallowing illicitly in the daily papers. In the long hours of church, was it then that I learned? I could not remember not being able to read hymns. Now that I was compelled to think about it, reading was something that just came to me, as learning to fasten the seat of my union suit without looking around, or achieving 2 bows from a snarl of shoelaces. I could not remember when the lines above Atticus's moving finger separated into words, but I had stared at them all the evenings in my memory, listening to the news of the day, bills to be enacted into laws, the diaries of Lorenzo Dow, anything Atticus happened to be reading when I crawled into his lap every night. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing. Okay, so how did Scout learn? Well, we have it here. Actually, she could not remember when the lines above Atticus's finger, moving finger, separated into words. So Atticus was teaching her every night. Family routine was for her to be in his lap while he reads. So her father is a reader. Okay, so Atticus encourages education. Miss Caroline discourages education. He's a reader and he's teaching her to read. I knew I had annoyed Miss Caroline, so I let well enough alone and stared out the window until recess, when Jem cut me from the covey of first graders in the schoolyard. He asked how I was getting along. I told him. If I didn't have to stay, I'd leave. Jem, that damn lady says Atticus has been teaching me to read and for him to stop it. Don't worry, Scout, Jem comforted me. Our teacher says Miss Caroline's introducing a new way of teaching. She learned about it in college. It'll be in all the grades soon. You don't have to learn much out of books that way. It's like if you want to learn about cows, go milk one. See? Yeah, Jem, but I don't want to study cows. Sure you do. You have to know about cows. They're a big part of life in Macomb County. I contented myself with asking Jem if he'd lost his mind. I'm just trying to tell you the new way they're teaching the first grade, stubborn. It's the Dewey Decimal System. Having never questioned Jem's pronouncements, I saw no reason to begin now. The Dewey Decimal System consisted in part of Miss Caroline's waving cards at us, on which were printed the, cat, rat, man, and you. No comment seemed to be expected of us, and the class received these impressionistic revelations in silence. I was bored, so I began a letter to Dill. Miss Caroline caught me writing and told me to tell my father to stop teaching me. Besides, she said, we don't write in the first grade. We print. You won't learn to write until you're in the 3rd grade. So here, Scout is advanced beyond her grade. And I'm kind of writing as she's writing now. Maybe you can see where the letters are attached. She's writing, not doing block letters like that. She's connecting the letters in handwritten. That's how we used to do it a long time ago. Okay, that's probably hard for you to read. This is sort of a mix grade. I'm writing like that because of this crazy tablet pen, but anyway, you get the idea. Scout is doing more than just printing letters. She's doing cursive writing, which is advanced, but she's being discouraged. Don't write like that. Okay, so we see a general pattern here in this section. We're going to keep going in a moment. All right.